Today's a Monday morning, and I'm sure you've already hit the ground running. And it's been a great start to back to school with your teams. And I think we should just take just a few moments to really see where we are and how we're feeling before we jump into this work today. So please take some time, reflect on your energy this morning, and please choose two to share with all of us today.
All right, we were just waiting on a few more folks to join. I think we're all here, so we can get started.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So, what brings us here today is we're going to revisit the activity that we participated in at the retreat, where we worked collaboratively in groups to create a model, given our specific scholar, Freddie Firebird. And so, as we get into this work today, we just wanted to just start with kind of a centering to check where we are. And what we look forward to today is a great day of collaboration, and really having a chance to reflect on that activity. I know it was a little short given the time that we had, but we really wanted to get some insights from your experience. And it's also going to be something that we're looking forward to doing throughout the month of August and throughout the remainder of the school year, to really create these authentic spaces for us to collaborate and connect on the different goals and activities that we have planned. And so our game plan, today's focus again is coordinator collaboration. We're gonna, we know that we understand that you aren't in the same groups that you were working in, but that perspective as a organization leader is going to be key to allow us to work together to see that through line. Or again, visualizing that arrow of the scholar. We want to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction. We're going to debrief the model project and identify any pertinent next steps that would allow us to act on some things that are more urgent or plan for some bigger projects down the line. And what we can look forward to for the remainder of the month is working through system alignment and reviewing different operation styles and operation systems from departments, and then reviewing processes and determining the best way for that integration. And also there will be links for this video and other videos and meetings that we would have throughout this training period to ensure that we have access to this information in one succinct space.
All right, thanks, Keelan. So the batting order for this week and beyond. So everyone should have received invites especially for this week. But today, again, we're going to look at revisiting some of what we were working on at the retreat and kind of starting to launch us into those collaborations. Tomorrow, we're going to have, or actually this week, we're going to have a handful of just different sessions that are led by some of our coordinators. That will be a way for all of our coordinator teams as well as counselors to be on kind of in the same place at the same time to review some of those sessions, but then also have some opportunities for open questions and answers. So tomorrow, Dawn's going to be launching us off with SSTs and 504s. We're going to make our way kind of down the lineup. Wednesday, interventions and support under MTSS. Then Thursday, a session on EL. And as well as following with an online department overview. Friday, SPED. And then as you'll see, kind of continuing next week, we'll go into some high-level refreshers. These sessions that are not notated with the coordinator teams / counselors will be open for all of our teams, including supervising teachers. We'll do a little bit more around some SST training for STs, some visits around retentions and promotions. Thursday the 17th, the options department is going to do their overview for us as our coordinator teams as well. Friday the 18th, Compass Way to School Pathways, the 18th as well as certificate of completion and alternative diplomas. And then that next week, academic support 504 training, the 21st, independent study evaluation, the 24th, and options STs. How do I help scholars log into Accelerate Education, the 25th? I know my team is still kind of going to be debriefing a little bit since a lot of the coordinators, as you all know, most of us were all off the month of July. So there probably will be some PLs added throughout the month of August. So just stay tuned and privy to those on the Google calendars. Again, just kind of reiterate what Keelan had mentioned. Let's not forget the experience and the activity that we all worked on at the retreat as we looked at providing Firebird Freeman with some total scholar support. So when we look at what's next, kind of following up from the retreat and additionally highlighting some of the work that we plan on embarking on throughout the month of August, but also beyond. We're going to continue this work. We're going to really look at what we can all do as a team to further work together to trust and inspire each other, and to also apply our collective expertise as we grow that scholar team of supports in an inclusive and collaborative way. So I'm going to hit it off to Casey at this point, who's going to share a little bit about the activity that we plan on covering today as a team.
Hi, everybody. Good to see y'all. So we're actually going to revisit the work that we did at the retreat, but we're going to break you up in random breakout rooms for about 10 minutes. We'll check in at about 7 to see how y'all are doing, and then we'll have a 30-second transition. So technically you could be in your breakouts for about 10.5 minutes, but we'll check in at 7 minutes just to see how you all are doing. And before you get started, make sure you assign a recorder because there's a lot of us in the room. We don't want Google Slides to bog down. So your recorder will take notes on your designated slide. So if you're team 1, which will indicate at the top of the screen, breakout room, you're going to be on slide 7. If you're team 2, again, breakout room 2 will be in 8, slide 8. Breakout room 3, team 3, slide 9, so on and so forth. There'll be about 4 of you in a room. If you can't get in, just hang out in the main room and we'll put you in there. But you'll have that reporter assigned. You'll also have the timekeeper, like I said, about 10 minutes. Just keep tabs on the time. We'll have that timer up at the top of the screen as well. And then someone to debrief at the end. So when we all come back together as a group, you're going to have your reporter or spokesperson share your slide with the entire group, kind of your high level thoughts, overview, some things that you want to call out and share with the rest of the group. So we'll go slide by slide and have your reporter share. Raise your hand if you have a question. Pause for a second here. And you can always go back to the slide to see your questions that you'll be collaborating on in a group, but you'll also see them in the speaker notes. So you don't have to go back and forth, back and forth. Once you get into your room, your recorder rather, will add your team member names, and then you'll get started in that 10 minutes. Questions? I'm going to open up the room. So wait a couple seconds before I do so. Everyone solid? Give me a thumbs up if you're solid. See, 1, 2. Okay, lots of thumbs up. All right, hang back if you can't get in, but I'm going to open up rooms right now. We'll see you back in about 10 with that 7-minute check-in. Take care, everybody. See you back soon. All right, thanks, Erin. I know that was super fast. We also had an opportunity to debrief and we were really excited about what we saw at the retreat. So we wanted to hear from you. We'll start with team 1, breakout room 1, Tara, Carly, Linda, and Danielle. So have your spokesperson or your reporter share out high-level insights with the rest of the group.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So one key takeaway about like the noticing of the actual models was that it highlighted all the resources we had and really how the scholar was the main focus. So, and that's super important. Everything supports the scholar. That is the #1 focus. That's why we're here. That's our job. So it was interesting though, hearing, and then those groups, because they were pretty mixed, hearing everyone share from what their take is on what their role is and how they touch the scholar and how they support, which also lent to some are very like on the scholar and others are a little more back. And yet they all serve a part and have a purpose. And they are all equally as important and integral to our school, as well as the scholar and their success. And then we really felt like to ensure that all scholars receive all these resources, training is key on all those people that really touch the scholar, especially. And if they are the ones that have to implement that, if they're the boots on the ground, they need that direct training. And they also need it like reoccurring, little bits ongoing, especially before an important time. We could talk right now about CAS, but it's kind of far away. So we may file that away. So as it comes up again, right before, super important. And then we really all lean on the guide site, and therefore we need to make sure that all those resources are up and ready to roll so that we can try to start supporting, because August 1st in options, we are like all hands on deck. Those families are reaching out to us and are ready to roll. So that's our team.
Thanks for sharing, Carly. That was super impactful. And we also had the same notice saying like the whole scholar was very much present in those conversations. So thank you so much, team 1 and Carly, for sharing. All right, team 2, we have Beth, Jason, Michelle, and Alex. So team 2 reporter, go ahead and jump on the mic. High level insights. Do you have an opportunity to nominate a reporter? If not, anyone from team 2 can just jump on.
I'll go ahead and jump on to report. I think I misheard that the recorder and reporter, I didn't hear that right. So I will do my best to wing it here, but our team, not everyone was present. So we talked about it from just a couple of our perspectives, but we saw that while the models were all different, there was a lot of similarities in terms of the values that we had shared mission and shared vision. Depending on who was in the group and what roles were present. The base might have started with a different focus. For example, Beth, they focused a lot on data, whereas some others focused first on scholars. Group that I was a part of, we didn't have the foam base. And so we related that to some of our scholars that might not know they don't have all the pieces to succeed, but they're still going to do their best. And then seeing everyone else really gave us some insights. Let's see, we noticed that not every group had representation from each department, though the team did try to look at the importance of each role from the list. Some of those roles were merged together with their similarities for building the model. It was good to see how all of the roles in every department have a similar end goal of supporting the scholars. And we noted that it can be overwhelming for our scholars and learning coaches with how much we offer, how many resources and how many lines of communication there are. So that's where we ended our conversation.
That was a great takeaway, Michelle, and I appreciate you jumping on the mic to cover from team 2. We also had that same conversation that even though not all teams were represented, they all appeared in the conversation in some capacity. So it was really exciting to see everyone represented. All right, team 3. Dawn, Lauren, Alyssa, and Leslie. Reporter, go ahead and jump on the mic and share.
Hi, this is Lauren. We had a lot of the similarities from the past 2 groups that have gone. One being no 2 models looked alike. Everything was so different and eye-opening. All the teams seemed to understand that together, wrapping around, we all play a role. We're all important in supporting the scholar. Reflections on the process. People struggle to come up with examples. That was kind of hard using the tools a little bit, but it worked. We all did. Everyone with different ideas, some maybe had to talk through and help come up with something new. STs wanted to present from their role perspective, not other roles available. So I guess not really considering all the different roles that were on the list. So we all just went to our main role. We noticed that they don't necessarily need to know our jobs 100%, but trust was big. We realized that we all trust each other to do our part and to come together, whether it's SPED, counseling, STs, whatever, we all come together and we all trust each other to do that part. Examples were not always geared towards Freddie, just an observation, but more of my role is to do this, but not really Freddie specific. And it was a little too abstract with the blocks and feathers. Maybe a cutout of a child next time. Those were some reflections. And so one of the surprises is that we do trust each other more than we had realized, because we all rely on each other's expertise. And roles were being checked off the list. So we all kind of checked the list and tried to find some representation. We also thought that maybe he had too many supports in place. Like it was a little narrow. He already had SPED. He already had like different things. So we had to really branch out when we were Freddie specific to try and see what else we could do. That was ours. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lauren. For me, and you already mentioned this, but I'm seeing trust very much present in this and trusting each other's expertise and pulling the right people. Yeah, we don't need to know the ins and outs of every position and roles, but we know the right people to pull in because they're the experts in their field. Great call out, Lauren, and team 3. All right, team 4, we have Jen, Mandy, Heather, and Christy. Go ahead, reporter, and jump on the mic.
I can report. So one thing that we know, well, several things we noticed about the models is that all models had support centered around the scholar, and in all the models that were presented, support was the focus. A working relationship where all of the roles are vital. So that's one of the things that we also noticed in Surprise and Learnings, was that everyone is aware that their role and all roles are vital to scholar success, which is very important. And the approach was positive, and people were working from strengths, which is very good. And in reflections on the process, one observation was that no matter what the role or position that you hold at CCS, you have an effect on every scholar. That's very important. Some Surprise and Learnings, we're reminded that we all need each other to get a scholar and family from one point to another, from start to finish. And that everyone is aware. Again, this is one thing that I just repeated. Everyone is aware that every role is needed and important. And of course, how this all relates to our WIG. And let's see. And then for the last, it's funny, I typed it in, but I don't see it on the screen. That's really strange. I put that we need to address gaps in order to ensure that all scholars have success or have access to our resources. I think the good thing is that everyone has a positive attitude and everyone is aware of the importance, but I think that training is going to be very important, and that's something that is really important for ensuring that all of our scholars are included. And I think Jen wants to add something.
Yeah, I guess because I typed our WIG in quotations, and that was, Heather had been talking, and I know we've reiterated this, but Heather had been talking about how it's our WIG as an organization. So I know we keep saying everybody has an effect on every scholar. Very, very true. But when you're looking at the WIG and when STs were trying to create their goals according to the WIG, some of them are like, well, I teach kindergarten, how does that affect? Or I work in enrollment, how does that affect? The whole reason we put it an hour is because every single person in our organization, whether it's super clear or not, has an effect on that WIG. Like Heather had brought up a story where she had a kiddo that had been in 5th grade, I think, with her, correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, and then he graduated and she's like, wait, I do have an effect on this, So I think just putting different glasses on and realizing that you do have an effect. And so that was why I just wanted to explain why that was in quotations. Us as a whole.
I just want to pop in because this is like a glory story for me. Is like a student, Jared, he came to us in 5th grade and he was like 3 grades behind. And that was one of the years, I think, or maybe a little early before we put the WIG in place. And I was like, I don't know how the WIG impacts me, but we moved Jared up, not from like 3 grades behind to like, he actually got ahead and then he moved to online and he graduated this year. So like, I saw the direct effect. We, even though we're TK through 8, like, guys, we can do this. So it was a really like, it's our WIG, it's so impactful. And the scholars you touch today, the supports you give them and the tutoring you give them and the whatever you help
find to help that family, like move that kiddo along, that is going to impact who graduates. Even if they don't graduate with us, they may or may not, but we're doing great work. So I was so moved by that story this year. It was a really great story.
Team 4, that was excellent. And I appreciate you sharing that story, Heather, of kind of being vulnerable. How does the wig really impact me? I'm not sure yet, but now you've seen it. We've all had an opportunity to impact at least one of our scholars in our organization. So thank you, Christy, Heather, and Jen for sharing. And last team 5, we have Stephen, Melissa, Mo, and Christina. Go ahead, reporter.
All right, so our team, kind of similar to what others discussed about the models of being all the departments are impacting, whether it is direct or indirect, all part of supporting that scholar. Also the scholar being the center, being the focus. We noted some models were more complex, kind of composed than others, maybe some a little bit more chaotic, and just kind of a note of just different working styles, also capacity, prioritizing, things like that. But keeping that focus on meeting the unique needs of each scholar. So every model was different, just as the supports are going to be different for each individual scholar. We did talk about that. I think for all of our teams, we kind of took the approach of starting with our roles and adding those supports in, not necessarily beginning with like this initial vision and kind of like talking and thinking about constructing it all together, but just kind of adding it in as we were going. And that there are just so many pieces to incorporate into that model. Leading into one of our surprises is, I think it was a little bit eye-opening just to see that list of 16 different roles. We know we have a lot of different teams and departments that work with scholars, but that's just like the reminder of just how many different people are there to support. And also just refreshing to hear other people's perspectives, kind of the intricacies of their individual roles, which sometimes we may forget if we're not working with that department as often based on the scholar needs. And then ensuring that all scholars have access to all these resources. I think taking a little bit of that on ourselves, of reminding that scholar when you're working with them of those different possible supports, the scholar or the family, and letting those team members really do their best work in supporting that scholar with their expertise, and just making sure that we're providing all of that relevant information so that the scholar has that when they need it.
Awesome, Mo, thank you. He saw or heard a lot of overlap too with meeting the unique needs of each scholar. Scholar was at the center and relying on everyone's expertise to ensure the scholar has the direct and indirect supports put in place. Nice job, team 5. All right, team 6, leadership team, director team, go ahead, Amy, and share on our behalf. We did have an opportunity to debrief as well.
Oops. Yes. So we saw many of the things you guys did. So we saw a lot of the models, which I had a blast walking around taking pictures of. It was quite fun to see everybody working together. But lots of wraparound, lots of them, a lot of common language being used. It was refreshing to see the collaboration. As I reflected upon, I saw some groups starting out slow, like what's all the stuff that is in front of us and what are we going to put together? But there was a lot of intentionality we saw as people started saying, what could we use this item for? How could we use the clay? What could we do over here? So it was fun to watch the process unfold for everyone. we noticed a high level of encouragement happening from different, yes, people collaborated, which was wonderful. Encouraging ideas, encouraging people to talk and think through. Learnings, that, you know, we saw everyone kind of taking turns and really working to include everybody. And without that having to be a rule or stated that everybody has to do it. So that was great to see. Everybody just kind of jumped in. The quietness of the process, so just, which kind of means how much we saw people thinking and being intentional. And then at the end, you see people looking around at other people's models and things, and they kept coming up with more ideas. And so you kept seeing people add another little detail and add another little detail that had meaning. It wasn't just to make it pretty. We didn't put in here is everybody's looked different, which was fabulous because it really showed the intentional work people were doing about a scholar and what all this means. So we also saw, when it comes to ensuring all scholars have access to all resources, as people were looking at the scenario, you could see that they were really reviewing the data and the needs of that scholar to try to determine what are all the resources for that scholar. So that was really refreshing and wonderful for us to see as we were walking around. It was actually kind of fun.
Team,
All right.
thank you again so much for taking the time to reflect on our activity from the retreat. I heard and saw a lot of overlap in each other's debriefs, and we really appreciate you taking the time to reflect and examine how we can take this further. And we'll talk about that, and I'll pass that on to Becca, I believe.
Yeah. Hey everyone. Well, we just want to have an opportunity for us as all 27 participants to pause and reflect just a little bit more, to talk through maybe ways that we can improve upon this experience, how we can, as ourselves, let this frame our work in collaborating and being inclusive, and then talk through accountability a little bit. What are just some tangible ways to be accountable? So you can click raise your hand, you can unmute, all good things. We'll start here with the first question. Considering the models and the whole experience in general, what would you possibly do differently to improve upon this experience? I know we already heard one specific feedback on that, maybe making an actual scholar be the base rather than the foam base, which was a fun insight. And there's possibly other things sprinkled there throughout. This was all the team share outs were just so beautiful and really, really great to hear. So anyways, anything else that just could be a way to improve upon this experience? Just pause here for anyone to unmute or raise their hand.
So one suggestion, and somebody had mentioned it, not having equal representation at the tables, which I know some departments are really small. I mean, we can only divide Nora up so many ways. I mean, unless she's sat and rotated or whatever. So we, honestly, I don't even know how we got into those groups. I just remember sitting at a group. So maybe if there was like each department was numbered or something like that. I don't know, because those supportive arts, it would be good to have, because my table, if I recall, we were pretty ST heavy. So if I had had more other support departments, that would have been great. And I again, apologies. I don't remember how we got into those tables, how they were determined. If it was just sit down
hippo or slithery snake or whatever those names were again.
Oh, so maybe they were already. All right, my bad. I was something monkey, I think. So moonwalking monkey. That's right. Okay, so they were divided. All right then. Well, just ignore me. Sorry.
No, that's great input, and honestly, it's something to talk through a little bit more. That was complex. It was like, how do we the smaller representations? How do we get them more represented? That's where that peer representation came in. But maybe I put in there, is there a way to get small departments to rotate? Maybe there's a way to like send those little departments around to kind of like, tell me about your model, and then okay, now here's where I would maybe fit my role into your model. Like maybe, or maybe it's like, anyways, my mind's thinking of other ideas based on that, Carly. Thank you. I appreciate it. Any other possible ways to just improve upon this experience? And yeah, all feedback is good feedback. So do the pause and wait before we jump into the next two questions.
I just kind of want to piggyback on what Carly said, is like my group was very ST heavy, and I just like jumped into a few other roles, which was great because I think I have a little grasp on them. But
yeah,
if there's any way that we could get better representation, because I think that's our biggest hurdle going forward, is like that teams don't understand or don't collaborate together. So, but it was great. It was a super fun exercise, and I think it was really well received. And I think the results showed a deep understanding. So it was great.
Maybe there's like a call out, like, hey, we need someone to come over. Like, we feel comfortable in these areas, but could we have a rep from over here to come over? We all feel like we need this department to come speak to the group. Like, maybe is that also along what you were saying, Heather? I see you nodding. Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Go ahead, Janae.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in because we kind of looked at that. So I'm glad that you guys brought it up. We looked at that, like looking at these groupings and looking like, okay, there's 2 people in engagement, but we need 16 groups or whatever, you know. I'm just wondering, just from your guys' perspective, like, was there, and this will help us kind of see if there's gaps, like, Carly, I think, was mentioning like specific training or more training, you know, like when, especially like when the time comes and things like that. As coordinators too, were you guys noticing any like commonalities of any gaps, or with understanding from the different supports, if that wasn't necessarily represented at your table?
One thing I noticed at my table is that there were a few roles that weren't represented, that people felt comfortable jumping in and saying, I can be engagement, because they understand clubs or they understand whatever that role might support. But some of the other maybe lesser known roles were not as easily, you couldn't just like kind of say, I would do this. You need the actual person there to explain how your role is a part of supporting that scholar.
Awesome. Thank you. So I didn't realize I need to type and talk at the same time. So thank you, Tara, for sharing that. And I think there's, I think that does tie back to what Janae was saying too. So I just made a commonality of gaps there on slide 13. And it's under in the speaking notes there. So if you all thought, oh, you know, in our group, this was underrepresented in our group, if you could maybe just drop it in there, and then we can kind of tie those all together. Heather, yay. Yeah, go ahead.
I have one more comment, just because I was in my group and I got to give a lot of feedback, but like, I'm not sure what everyone knows. So maybe in the future, if it was something like everyone got an assigned role, because there were STs, so it wouldn't be a bad thing if there was an engagement person and you had to talk as an ST. That might give us a cross understanding. We could all give feedback of like, oh wait, no, this is what we do, or oh wait, this is what we do. And then I'm not even sure, thinking back at my table, I think we hit all the groups, but I don't 100% know, because we were all just like going around and then we ran out of time. So maybe we had strips of paper for like each department, and someone has to take one. It doesn't matter what your role is. And maybe it's even better if the role you take is not your own, because then everyone has to give feedback.
Love it. Awesome.
Yeah, something my team did. I remember Rachel McKee and I starting like just looking at that slide on the wall, and flipped over a piece of paper we had on the table, and we started listing them all out and then dashing like what everything we were adding. So we kind of gave an idea of what we were constructing. And then we were like, okay, so we got pom-poms. Okay, we could put the pom-poms, those will be X. Okay, check. And then we were like listing it as we went. So it kind of helped us. But I remember there being one thing we all went, what is that? I mean, without seeing that slide of everything. But there was one thing that we were all a little stumped on and thought, I don't know how this pertains. I don't remember, but again, because it does kind of feel like an eternity ago. Sorry. But
Sure, no, it's okay.
we really tried to
Go
work
for
hard
it.
to get all the things on there.
Yeah, that's great, Carly. Yeah, and that on slide 6, that list is there. So if you do look at that, if I think the list you're referring to is the orange list on the right side. So maybe if you remember, you can drop it in that commonality gap and help us try and track down whole staff areas to grow and learn. Oh, is that my sign to keep moving? Should I keep moving? It's fine. We don't
Nope,
have to
not
get
at
to
all. I
question
was
2
gonna,
and 3.
no, not at all. I was gonna pull up that side, but it's.
Oh, I love it. Oh, perfect.
It's all good.
Oh, thanks, Erin. So if I didn't capture all your thoughts there, well, that's please feel free to adjust the speaker notes. Keelan, were you going to? Did you want to jump in there on question 1, 2?
Just real quick, just kind of like bringing those last points together. It really does bring to focus the opportunity that we have to address the collaboration between different teams and different departments. Because on one hand, we want, hey, you can assume this role and make decisions based on this. But then on the other end, it's like, trust the expert. So it puts us in a position to have to really discern when is it best to do that and when is it not. And oftentimes, like, making sure that we are soliciting that feedback and that input from those who do that work on a daily basis. But there will be times where we may have to make some assumptions, and it should be not received negatively that is happening. So it creates that, just something to keep an eye on as we move forward.
That was really well said. Thank you, Keelan. I appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wait, I don't know if that was I don't know if anybody could hear me snapping. I was snapping. Awesome. Well, then how might this process frame what I will do in collaborating and being inclusive for this school year? So as you read that, as you hear that, what does that look like for you? What is maybe just one key takeaway that you're like, I'm going to commit to this. I commit to. And if you all just want to say ditto to what Keelan said, I mean, that's cool too. So, but within that space, what will you do to let this be where you springboard off of for being collaborative and inclusive? It does say might, so if you change your mind in like a half an hour tomorrow morning, it's okay. There's how might it help you?
Well, will
It
you
does.
this
Oh, go ahead,
potentially
Amy.
for? Do we have somebody answering?
You are answering. Go for it, Amy.
No, I was going to clarify maybe the question a little bit so someone would answer. So, so maybe not so much framing what you'll do in collaborating, but did this process bring forward anything that you want to focus on more as you are working with a scholar and collaborating with others?
Yeah, great way to say that.
I can say so. I think
Right.
for me, sometimes when you're sitting in your house at your computer, it's easy to forget that feeling of sitting around the table, all focusing on the same project, which was this model. Our projects throughout the year, our scholars are helping each other to collaborate, to do our best work, and trying to come back to remembering sitting at that table, and the feeling that you had all together, and trying to keep that in mind in some of those more challenging situations, or when maybe you're frustrated over something or you're not sure who to reach out to, just kind of having that same feeling of we're all here for the scholars. So if it's not the right person, they'll tell me that and we'll figure it out, and kind of keep going back to that same feeling we had all together at the table and in all other different ways last week as well.
Make me emotional,
Awesome.
Tara. Oh my goodness. Literally, like tears are welling up. Like that is yeah, sorry. That is beautiful, Tara. I think I'm going to, my takeaway from today's meeting is exactly what you just said, Tara. We are all at the table. I tried to put it there in the speaking notes that we're always all at the table, even in our remote locations, and to keep in mind when we are in conflict sequences too. When you were saying like, even in tough situations, I was like, ooh, MVS. So Tara, that was really beautiful. Thank you. Well, awesome. We'll wrap up here with this last question. What are any possible tangible ways for each of us to help keep each other accountable to ensuring that these new insights are implemented team-wide? And I think common language is something that's really huge. And so like saying MVS, like saying staying at the table. Are we staying at the table? Am I still in my seat at the table, right? Like taking that common language so we can help each other stay accountable. We can ask like, are you remembering we're all at the table? Are you remembering are you thinking through colors right now? You know, like that common language can be a really great way to help hold each other accountable. Any other ideas or ways that we could help keep each other accountable before we jump into our extra innings? And it's really okay if you don't want to unmute. Anything that went into the chat, I did drop into the speaking notes. Also, if you don't want to put it into the chat or even say it out loud, you can just put it into the speaking notes. Please feel free to edit that way too. It's a very safe space in terms of sharing out and gathering your insights. So yeah, Heather.
Heather. We have Heather.
I just love being with everyone. I'm like the neighborhood dog. I hope I sat with you at lunch or dinner. I try to, my poor team, I'm like, see you guys. I'll see you in person later. But like, I love connecting, and I hope, like, I try to make these connections so that whenever my emails seem short or when I'm not like perfectly clear, like we go back to these relationships. We all know we have the scholar's best interest in mind. We all have the best intentions, and let's just communicate as a team. Like, I need help. I don't know what to do. It's okay to say those things. And I just love hanging out with all you. Like, I hope I had a meal with you. I tried.
Yes, you did. And you are so great about that, Heather, making those connections and letting those be real and authentic, and how we do help each other stay accountable and stay up to date, and then also help like bring each other along. Like you were saying, like it's okay to say, I don't get this. Will you help me here? That circles way back to the beginning when we were saying we struggle with representation at some of the tables. That's okay. We don't have to be all things to everybody, but we all are together at the table. And so being able to like acknowledge, I need that support, I need that help. Can you help circle in there? Well, I feel like we have, I want to stay here forever, but we probably should hand the mic off so we can wrap up on the next slides. But if we have more time, I'd love to circle back to slide 2 and see if we can get any more of that shared out accountability. But again, big thank you to each and every one of you. And I'll hand the mic off to Janae.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Becca. Okay, we're going into extra innings now. So what we want to take a look at as coordinators, we want to take a look at our WIG goals, our LCAP goals, and those WASC goals that are on the next slide. And how can we, hold on, I was kind of reading that a little bit. Here we go. Okay, there we go. How can you use what you learned from this activity to ensure you and your teams continue to leverage the different areas of support for scholars so we can meet these WIG, LCAP, and WASC goals? So putting on those coordinator hats, we talked about that opportunity for collaboration, which was great. So now how do we leverage this, all these supports that we've talked about and these models that we built to ensure our teams are continuing that collaboration, are getting that information. So if we, saw some of those gaps, like how are we ensuring that those gaps are filled and that we are coming together to support scholars? Sorry, thanks, Erin, if you want. Now we can skip over to that one. So just in one space, there's our WIG goals, and then our LCAP goals and those WASC goals that we took a look at on Friday from Liz's presentation. Oh, thanks, Casey. Casey put that question in the chat box as well. And I can kind of go back to what Tara was saying, you know, knowing what each piece brings to the table, how do we ensure that either we are bringing our expertise or our teams are bringing their expertise to the table?
Sorry, were you asking for someone to speak on this now?
Yes, please.
Well then, no, I just think that this activity, what it makes you realize and what may have been almost a disconnect before is when you look at the goals, and it's kind of like, not me personally, but when you look at the goals, you know, one might tend to be like, oh, that's not my department. Oh, that's not my department. You know what I mean? Like, this is all everybody's responsibility. We all have a role in every bit of it. And I think, you know what I mean, doing that model, it kind of shows you that we all have a piece in this. It's not just somebody else's role. We all can do it. And also that we're not alone. We're not alone. We can lean on, we have all these other teams. So if the goal we feel is more relevant to us, we still know that we have all these other specialists that we can reach out to and wrap around with and help us in that support. And we can all work together. You're not alone in it. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying, Lauren. And I think that is something that's always good for us to remember is we're not alone. And we've had this conversation over the years. We don't have to be an expert in all the things, right? Sometimes there's just not enough capacity within ourselves to do that. But knowing who we should be reaching out to and who we can go to, I think is a step in the right direction. And that will help open up those conversations to leverage expertise and to, you know, if there's a gap or if we need to bring in each other into a specific meeting or whatnot, to know that we have that trust that we can rely on each other for that, I think really helps to bridge any of those gaps and to increase that collaboration. Okay,
I think what we need to do, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, is that we need to have an expectation that if a scholar is involved with special education, 504, counseling support, an additional intervention, tutors, that it's our responsibility to reach out to each other about that scholar consistently as we get to grades, as we get to that time of year on reviewing progress, just so we're all there talking about the scholar and having all the same information consistently.
Yeah, a couple things I'm hearing too is just those clear expectations and consistency will help to at least keep that conversation going and help us to, I think it helps to either further identify, like, you know, say we get to a point where we're kind of stuck, that consistency and that continued information and the data that we're gathering from the scholar helps us to make that decisions for next steps as well. Anything else before we kind of move in and wrap to the end and wrap this up?
I think we're just to summarize, and you all have said this, trust is really at the core of this work. And when we look at our WIG number 1, reporting improved school culture, trust is at the foundation, right? Trusting in each other's expertise. And Janae, you just said, and Amy too, communication and consistency. Those two are part of the elements of that trusting platform, right? So we have those 4 C's. So if we really work on clear communication and being consistent in that work, trust will come. Once that trust comes, we will definitely see that needle move in the right direction with reporting, increasing our school culture as a whole. So just wanted to, I'm hearing that's everyone say that. And I just wanted to reiterate, to summarize, we got to really focus on that trust work this year. And as the leadership team, I hope we're able to do that with that trust and inspire work with Covey.
Thanks, Casey. Okay, well, we'll move forward with our.
Oh, Janae, sorry, Christy looks like she has her hand up.
Oh, I can't see any of the hands. Sorry, Christy, go ahead.
I just wanted to really reiterate what Amy was saying, because it's so important. And I'm seeing even another side of this. It's not just all of us as staff at the table, but also including the LC. It's really important for the LC to see exactly who touches their scholar as far as support, and for them to be aware of all the support that is offered and that their scholar is receiving, so that we can really help them and support them. Because many times when I meet with families, they're not really aware of who is that contact person and who should they be reaching out to. So I agree with what Amy's saying. And I just wanted to add the parent element to that. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, that's a good point. We were talking, we focus a lot on STs, but yeah, how do we ensure that the learning coaches know and are familiar so they don't hesitate to reach out either, right? Okay, thank you guys for all of your information in the chat. So thanks, Casey. Casey added a document in our in the chat for for FAQs and an opportunity to maybe ask questions if maybe we missed something during our time together today. And if you look, there'll be there's a spot to tag the specific department. But if you can do us a favor, and once again, if the rows are filled, just add a row to the bottom of that box. And then if you can tag the team that maybe you need some clarification from, or want to know more information from, that would be really helpful. And if you guys wouldn't mind adding your initials there, because sometimes we'll get questions and we may interpret it as something, but then I guess we just don't want to miss the mark in answering the questions. So if you would mind just putting your initials there and typing in your questions. If the table's full, that just go ahead and add a row to the bottom, and we can kind of keep that conversation going. The slide deck is hyperlinked here, and then once the recording link is available, we'll add that there as well. So you can use this as a resource. And that is, I think that's all I have. Anything else, team? Did I miss anything as well? And you'll notice, thanks, Erin, you'll notice like the other meetings that we have and training, professional learning trainings that we have are listed there too. So we'll just keep this document running throughout August to ask questions on.
Maybe just a shout out back to that third question about how can we keep each other accountable. If anybody wants to linger back, I'll be happy to hang out longer and we can talk through any aha moments you had as maybe that question sat with you a little bit longer. Or of course, you can always just drop them in the speaking notes too.
Okay, well, if you want to hang back, that's great. If not, I'm sure you guys are getting probably lots of chats and messages and all that this morning from your teams that are ready to hit the ground running. So thanks for your collaboration today and following up with all that work that we started last week. And I hope you guys have a great Monday and a great week. And I look forward to us meeting again tomorrow.